Hey everybody. So today we are covering Acts chapter 17, verses 16 to 23. So go ahead and hit pause and read that scripture. Now, just as a reminder, in the comment section, you are going to have some extra resources, so I encourage you to check those out. But again, hit pause, and then we'll come back and discuss. Okay, so let's dive right in because there's a lot here. So for apologetics, they will typically point to Acts chapter 2 and Acts chapter 17 as far as examples of ways to conduct for apologetics. And the reason is Acts chapter 2 is Peter's big proclamation sermon to other Jews. And so why that's pointed to is because you have a common foundation, a common worldview between the speaker and the hearers. They are all Jews. They all believe in God. They all believe in the Old Testament. So now all we have to do is get to Jesus. Okay? Now, the reason why Acts chapter 17 is pointed to as a different example of apologetics is because Paul, unlike Peter, doesn't have that common foundation when he gives his big sermon to everyone. So here's where we pick it up in our text. So we find out that Paul is in Athens and he's on one of his missionary journeys. And we find out that he is in great distress because he sees that everything is full of idols. Now, Paul's typical MO when he does these missionary journeys is to head straight for the synagogues and talk to other Jews and God-fearing Greeks, which we hear in verse 17. However, Paul does not stay there. So he starts going also into the marketplace. It says day by day, and he's reasoning with, debating people that he talks to in the marketplace. And it's hard to find a common day analogy of what the marketplace was because it's a place where you would not only buy groceries, but you'd also go there to get something fixed if your sword needed mending or farm equipment or whatever. You can also shop for clothes or jewelry, but also it's a place of social interaction, and so it's really this melding pot. That's where everyone gathered to do not only daily chores, daily errands, but also have their social interactions for the day. So maybe like farmer's market meets parade meets your local hardware store. Yeah, it was just this whole blending of people and things that you could do. So it says in there that Paul is talking to two different groups, and I'm going to murder this first one. Epicrine, they are of the mindset that you live for the here and now. Eat, drink, be merry, because tomorrow isn't promised. And so they really reveled in what to experience today. High on emotions, pleasure seeking, those sorts of things. But then you have the Stoic, and they are basically the complete opposite. They devalue feelings, emotions. They're not into the whole materialistic thing. So total opposites. And it says that Paul began to debate with them. And when it says in the text in verse 18, what's this babbler trying to say? And in the text, it comes across in the original text as like he's picking seeds, like a bird would kind of pick seeds off the ground. And that's important because it comes back later. So it is Paul, in my opinion, gathering information about what these people believe. See, in Acts chapter 2, we had this commonality of a foundation of a worldview. However, in Acts chapter 17, we don't have that, as previously discussed of these two different philosophies that Paul is talking to. So basically, I think what Paul is searching for is to build that foundation at which he can then have a foundation to get to talking about Jesus. But they have to start talking the same language. So as Paul is gathering this information, he is invited to the Abrigus. Again, probably murdered that one. It's translated as Mars Hill. And this is a really important place in Athens. Remember, Athens is the philosophical city. This is where everyone goes to talk philosophy. And Mars Hill is very important in this process because it is the place where ideas go to die. And I know that sounds a little extreme, but hear me out. The idea is that here everyone and anyone would present their ideas and it would get debated. And so it's like a trial by fire. And if you're able to debate your point, prove it, then you gain some street cred with everybody else. So this is a really important place where Paul's going. Now, they invite him to tell us about this new teaching that you're presenting, which is a huge opportunity for Paul to spread the gospel. And it's very important. Remember that Paul has been gathering all these little tidbits, trying to understand the way they think, trying to understand their world view, so he can best deliver the gospel. And so Paul masterfully lays a foundation in verses 22 to 23. And he talks about, I've noticed all these gods, and this is another foundational thing. Okay, they all believe that there is a God or gods. And I've seen that you have this God to statue for the unknown God. Because in their day, they believe in lots of gods, and they want to make sure that they are honoring all the gods. So just to cover their bases, they include for the unknown God. And this is where Paul does his launch pad, because he says, I can tell you about this God that you don't know. And now that gets into what we're going to be covering for next week. But the idea with this is that Paul really has laid a great foundation, a common place where he can talk to everyone. He understands their worldview. He understands where they're coming from because he has taken the time to invest and learn. And we're going to see that play out in the next few verses. Now, for your questions to talk about today. First off, have you ever been in a place or with people where you felt very out of place? Second question, uh, what would it take for you to feel comfortable to talk to someone about Jesus who you know doesn't believe? So, there are your two questions to discuss. And again, check out the comment sections for some additional resources. All right, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.